The heat death of the universe is a pretty popular doomsday scenario in fiction, but it isn't quite as dramatic as some of the others. So let's talk about it. I am your host, and you are watching this channel, which, by the way, I have no idea why that's the thing you're supposed to turn into at the end. The heat death of the universe is a hypothetical end state where everything in the universe has reached maximum entropy, aka everything is evenly spread out, and nothing has any energy left to move, change, or even exist. Eventually, all the stars will run out of fuel and go out, leaving only cold, dead remnants behind. And since there'd be no stars to bounce light around anymore, there'd be no light or heat anywhere. Now let's talk about why scientists think it might happen. To understand that, we need to talk about the heat death of stars. Making iron requires a lot of energy, and the core isn't massive enough to maintain the necessary pressure. Instead, the white dwarf will just radiate away its heat over a period of trillions of years, till it reaches the same temperature as the surrounding space. For one thing, there'd be no more suffering. If you check the mortality tables, you will see that the oldest people alive today have a less than 5% chance of living to see the next century. And even if you live longer than expected, you still won't see the heat death of the universe. If you liked this video, hit like and let us know in the comments section below what you think humanity should do to prepare for the heat death of the universe. Also, this is a rare video where I didn't spend months agonizing over the thumbnail. So go ahead and click the thumbnail to support my crippling indecisiveness. Scientists estimate it will happen somewhere between 10 and 100 trillion years from now. So unless you're a superhumanly long-lived individual, or the human species somehow manages to conquer aging, it won't affect you unless you plan on uploading your consciousness to a computer. No more pain, no more war, no more taxes, no more squirrels getting stuck in your chimney in the middle of the night. There'd also be no more people. We tend to think of ourselves as special because we're self-aware and intelligent. But really, we read just sacks of organic matter that happen to be in the right place at the right time. Most of the stuff that makes us us is temporary. Our consciousness will cease to exist almost immediately after our brain cells die. And our physical bodies will decompose and be recycled back into the ecosystem within a few years. Only our culture, our art, and our ideas will outlast us, and most of those will be gone within a few decades. At this point, it will be completely dark and utterly cold, and we will have reached the heat death of the universe. Stars produce energy through nuclear fusion, which is a process that combines lighter elements like hydrogen into heavier ones, like helium, and releases a tremendous amount of energy in the process. Basically, the heat death of the universe is the most boring doomsday scenario imaginable, which is why it's so compelling. It strips away all the specifics and particularities of our existence and leaves us with nothing but a cold, dark void. If you're into that sort of thing, then you're in luck, because according to scientists, it's almost guaranteed to happen eventually. The problem is, they can't do this forever. Eventually, they use up all the hydrogen in their core, and then they die. Some physicists even speculate that time itself would stop because on a microscopic level, time is just a measure of entropy. At that point, it will run out of hydrogen, expand dramatically, and swallow Mercury, Venus, and probably Earth. But after that, it will still have some hydrogen around its equator, so it might be able to squeeze out a few more trillion years of life. Well, to be honest, not great. If you're around when it happens, you'll probably die pretty quickly. Even if you were lucky enough to live past the whole sun-swallowing Earth thing, you wouldn't last long in a cold, dark, lifeless universe. Eventually, though, even that will run out, and the sun will enter what's called a red giant phase. During this phase, the core will contract and heat up, while the outer layers expand outward. The sun will start fusing helium into carbon and oxygen, but eventually it will run out of helium, swell up even bigger, and throw its outer layers into space, leaving behind a small, dense core called a white dwarf. It's kind of like the end of your average game of musical chairs, except with far less music and far more existential dread. Anyway, there are 3 key things to understand about the heat death of the universe. What is it? Why do we think it might happen? And how bad would it be? When most people think about how the world might end, they picture something more exciting than the heat death of the universe, like a planet-killing asteroid, nuclear war, or an angry AI overlord. And to be fair, those are all pretty good ways for the universe to end. But the heat death of the universe is the only one that scientists actually think has a chance of happening. So here's what you need to know about how the universe might end up turning into a big ball of yarn. That's literally impossible, according to the laws of physics. Absolute zero, also known as 0 Kelvin, or negative 273 degrees Celsius, is the temperature at which atoms theoretically have minimum energy. But according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, if we can actually reach absolute zero, because we can never measure both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect accuracy. So there'll always be some random jiggling motion at the atomic level. Plus, space is constantly expanding, which means there's a sort of cosmic doozy-doo going on between particles that prevents them from ever settling down. So while the heat death of the universe would certainly be very cold, it wouldn't be as cold as 0 Kelvin. In fact, it'd probably still be pretty toasty on the order of 1 or 2 Kelvin. We'll start with the least controversial part, which is what it is. This is also sometimes called heat death, because in many ways it's like the ultimate heat death. But before we get too comfy in our eternal darkness, it's important to point out that the heat death of the universe doesn't mean the universe has reached absolute zero, okay? So that's what the heat death of the universe is. Our sun is about halfway through its life right now, and scientists expect it live to around 10 trillion years old. Now, depending on its mass, this white dwarf could fuse even heavier elements like neon and magnesium. But it won't be able to make iron, okay? Now that we've established how the heat death of the universe might happen, let's talk about how bad it would be. On the other hand, if you're not into the whole existential horror thing, you might actually find the heat death pretty appealing. In fact, if you want to get out of the whole heat death of the universe thing, the best strategy is to plan on dying soon. In which case, sorry buddy, looks like you got uploaded to a potato. But hey, at least it wouldn't be painful. Thanks for watching.